Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's special edition of Beyond the Ordinary Show. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting call. It's the energies, the energy between you. I don't know what's up, but there's something just wanting to potentize, and it's not quite landing yet, and it's going to reveal itself on the call, everybody. So this is going to be fun. Um, this and expansive, and you may just find that something in you gets triggered, and I see in a really good way. And Steffi is the woman to do it. So this is great with the energy she's carrying. This is going to be an amazing call. If you're not familiar with Steffi, she's been on the show what, 3-4 times now.
Yep, this is my fourth time. Thank you for having me back.
It's wonderful having you. It's like I fell in love the first time you came on. It's like, how could you not come back? You become a regular now. And Steffi came in from an apology email. And from that, like this relation, it's like I checked out her. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, what kind of work are you doing? It's like, we need to work together. And it's just, she's just blown up as a fan favorite on Beyond the Ordinary. And let me tell you a little bit about her. I'll read her bio. So Steffie Funk is a holy woman who helps you remember who you really are and what you came here to do. And it's funny because I stalked to Steffi. I talked to Steffi last week, and she's going through this process. I think we all are. Who you really are and what you came here to do. So you're speaking from embodied experience in your own transformation.
Yeah.
She's a space for those moving from the ego masculine into dark feminine. We're going to get into that, to drop the confining layers of fear, pretense, and control, and experience the unrestricted orgasmic freedom of embodying and expressing their true essence into the world. And we're gonna go into how to be unfuckable with, or unwith. Yeah, I couldn't get it right earlier.
Unf kwithable.
There you go. And learn the sacred art of being who you are in the world without apology. So when I sent the email, I told you that we were going to be a little irreverent, and actually we might be a lot irreverent, but we're going to have fun with it also. So keep an open heart and mind, and tap into those aspects of you that are just ready to be expressed in their true essence. And Steffi, with that, welcome back. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much. I feel the energy too. It's 11:11. This date got booked, I think, without either of our conscious awareness. And then when I saw it, I was like, of course, the 11s have been so powerful for me ever since I've been in this dark feminine portal. So it like could not be more perfect. And I'm feeling that really, I am so charged right now, John. Like the second I locked into you and got here, it was just like I don't know what's gonna happen today. And it's perfect.
Well,
So
let's get into the dark feminine. Give us your definition of what that means for you, and how the transitions that you're experiencing, and also how it's relating to how you're working with your clients and people who are
yeah.
going to work.
Thank you. Yeah. And like I was just reflecting on how perfect it is that, when I first came in and we did our first call together, I was very much in the dark masculine energy, actually. And what a trajectory it has been. And thank you for being with me in this unfolding, because showing up today, I'm in a very different energy than I was then. And there's nothing wrong with the dark masculine, but let me kind of walk you through the various shamanic energies. There's sort of these 4 quadrants. There's the light masculine, the light feminine, the dark masculine, and the dark feminine. So I'm going to finish with the dark feminine, because once we see what the others are, it gives us a lot of context for what dark feminine is.
Wonderful.
And so the light polarities of the masculine and the feminine are all externally focused. The dark polarities are internally focused, and they're where the real power is. Now, but most of us have developed control mechanisms and manipulation strategies and coercions and different things in our light aspects, because it's how we think we manage the world. It's how we think we're in our power. So the light masculine is this mug right here. This go for it mug, light masculine. Light masculine is all about achievement, success orientation, motivation, goals, the money, the power, the power out there, the fame. It's very much about like our worth derived from what we achieve. The light feminine, on the other hand, is all about how we use our feminine wiles to get what we want. Like we be cute, we be sweet, we be overly apologetic, we we be sexy, whatever it is, all the ways that, and this can show up in very like subtle patterns. Like just you go into your boss's office, like, I'm so sorry to bother you. I just really appreciate you so much. Can I please have the day off next Friday, right? Like that's that light feminine energy. And then there's the dark masculine, which is very much about like protection. It's a very sort of solid, stable energy that can do a really good job of holding the feminine, the dark feminine. So the dark feminine is free to surrender. Now, the dark feminine doesn't need the dark masculine, but when you put them together, it's alchemy. It's like, right? So I was really in my dark masculine because the dark masculine is very much a stand for things, a stand for missions, as, creates like these structures that hold. So, I was very much about divine purpose work and like, this is the structure that's going to allow you to birth your divine baby. And I'm going to hold the field so you can do it, right? Well, then the feminine got a hold of me. The feminine is no structure. The feminine is weird, and this is dark feminine, weird and wet and wild and raw and naked. And it's the ultimate power because the dark feminine is comfortable with loss because she's not attached to anything. She builds low to the ground and she's like, oh, you're not for my truth? That's fine. And she knows that when she's in line with what's true, that what is for her will always exist and stand strong. And anything that falls away as a result of that being in one's truth is perfect because it wasn't a resonance match anyway. So that's the dark feminine. The dark feminine is like wet, it's dirty, it's messy, it's surrendered, and it's like the ultimate power of space holding and being able to be with whatever is, like in total reverence for the medicine that it is for us. Does that land?
Yeah, that lands beautifully. And for me, it really warrants a redefinition of dark also, because when we think dark, we think it's something that we want to
Avoid.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We want to avoid it. We don't want to present it to other people. It's going to be too much, too powerful, too into an opposite end of a polarity that we don't want to witness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. And I think and even just the word dark, can have like this like evil resonance depending on where we come from, right? The word dark here is really about the going inside, right? It's like it's the going down instead of like the rising, like what's out here and how am I showing up? It's like, ooh, what's in here? What magic and miracles and gems and diamonds can I find inside here? So the dark is very internal, and you're right that this path actually isn't for everybody. You have to be invited by the feminine down this path. She has to know you're ready for it because she is intense.
Yeah. And what's the intensity that comes through on it? Because it's quite a restructuring and rewiring that's happening.
Yeah, well, what I was just gonna say is like she's almost hysterical. Like I talked to you the other day and I'm like, I so often embody, like I can feel like the witch just with her head like thrown back in this like laughter that's just like just irreverent cackling at the hysterics of it all, right? And so there's some of that. It's almost like when we can really get in line with life as our medicine, And then we look at it, we're like, this is hysterical. This is hysterical. Like the whole thing. And we can stop taking it so seriously, but it also, the intensity is because the dark feminine is all about emotion. It's all about the ways we've used the light masculine and light feminine to avoid, to control, numb, whatever it is, to avoid the deep rolling edge of our emotion that's inside of us. And we've made that emotion wrong. And so that's the real intensity, is that we are able to be with the only thing that really scares us, John, which is our own emotions.
Mhm. Right. And so this really brings out an essence of really speaking from that sword, that edge of truth, that again, culturally, environmentally, we've been taught to steer away from for the sake of accommodating
I see. Yeah,
others. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's like what the dark feminine work is about, arriving at that, almost that piercing center, that core that is so clear that she cannot be fucked with, because she's immovable and she broadcasts her truth unapologetically. There's no minimizing it, there's no diluting it, there's no, oh, let me make this more consumable for you so that I can manage your emotions because I'm afraid of what I'm going to bring up for you when I'm in who I am. She doesn't do that, right? So you're absolutely right. There's that intensity as well of like,
But there's not a lack of love. There's not a steering away from love or benevolence. It's
no.
again, it's being in that authority.
Correct. There's actually no greater path of care than the dark feminine path. It's the divine mother. And it's the ultimate act of self care when we honor ourselves by not diluting who we are. And what happens is we see that our truth as it stands is perfect because it will always bring more truth. So your truth brings more truth. So whoever you are in your truth, whatever that brings up for someone else, that's meant for them,
Mhm.
meant for them to work with. It's meant for us to see them in their power to hold what who we are brings up for them, and not rescue or see them as incapable or let, I have to take care of this for you because you can't handle it.
Mhm.
Right? So it's actually the ultimate act of care in seeing ourselves in our power and also others in theirs.
Yeah, this is such an important conversation also, and the awareness that that is being birthed through you through this experience in this phase is that it's been so pronounced how our capacity to relate to others and to feel others so empathically, more so than we ever have before, how we've been attuning, telepathically communicating with our etheric fields, communicating in intimacy because the closeness that we've had to be during certain times, the closeness of social media, all of that has increased our capacity for sensitivity.
Mhm.
And in that sensitivity, it has to go beyond just the empath that feels everything and becomes a victim of their environment into the empath that can actually hold, be aware, and speak the truth in that regardless. So it's not the cowering back. It's not that, oh my God, this is too much. It's really, it's calling you forward into the transmutation of the fire rather than the fire that's going to burn you and and devour you.
I completely. And I love that you named that, because there's that is, social media is such a great example of where we play games and
Mhm.
we move into our light masculine or our light feminine. Something gets said, we can't hold what that brings up for us. So we either want to be victimized by it and shut down and hide, or we want to rescue it and say, "Oh, poor you. Oh, that's so sad." And because we can't like handle that someone's maybe going through something and we can't see them as powerful. Or this is what's been happening commonly, is we persecute. And
Mhm.
because we can't hold our own disturbance around whatever that is being said, we name call, we argue. And I would contend that in today's world, if you have anything other than this to say to a social media post, there's probably a game at play. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. Or that really resonated for me. Or wow, that really helped me to see blank. Everything, anything else is a game. It's a persecution, it's a victimization, it's a rescuing, and it's not clean.
Yeah, it's that agenda. Absolutely.
Right. And I'll go further and say that if there's something you really need to say on the topic, instead of saying it to the person who's speaking and like clouding up their feed with your opinion, go start your own feed.
Mhm.
Go be in your truth and allow that to draw to you the people that need to hear what you have to say, instead of going around and like, like stand in your power. So what you're talking about is being pure to what's true for you. There's spaces for you to go be that, where you don't have to go just like prowling on everyone else's social media.
Well, social media has served as a great spiritual tool as well, because it's really showing us where our triggers are and what's unresolved. So if we look at it from that sense, like, wow, I got triggered there. What happened? It's like, let me take a look at that more. It's like how wonderful that I can do it through a post that seems intimate, but it's really removed. So I don't have to do it physically with someone else necessarily. And
Mm-hmm.
we can really, if we check into it and see how we're sparked in different ways, it's a fantastic medium if used correctly and understood that way.
I agree, and you're tapping into something that is so dark feminine, which is that life is the teacher herself
Mm,
in every moment for what we need. And the place we learn the most, especially in the dark feminine path, is through our triggers.
mm,
So it's like life is the teacher, and she just gently brings us a messenger, and it pokes us, and we want to go fuck that messenger, right?
yeah.
And instead, what the dark feminine path invites is, I'm triggered. Okay, drop the messenger. What's going on inside? Where do I get to go sit with it, meet it, hold it, lean in, work with it, give it a seat at the table, give it a voice? That is like the karmic work that is ours to do. And life always gives us exactly what we need. So, that saying, John, it's not being done to us, it's for us. Like
Mm,
nowhere is that truer than in this path. It's like
yeah.
she is always working for us, showing us exactly what needs to be tended to by ourselves inside of us, which is true energetic responsibility and emotional maturity.
Mhm. It's with the emotional maturity and the responsibility, there's a tipping point though, because I experience this sometimes in that dark feminine energy. And I know a lot of other people go through the same experience, where if something comes up, there's a disturbance and some type of relational dynamic, that with that dark feminine energy, we tend to point at, okay, what did I do wrong here? What am I learning here? And there's a communication where the dark feminine also knows and has very health-free standards as to, no, that's not mine. And the awareness of that is really something that is, I feel, is developing more through this empathic capacity, but being able to hold that empathy as we feel it for ourselves, not for the sake of someone else.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And I think where it gets cloudy is when our truth gets hidden beneath all the games, right? The victim, the persecutor, the rescuer. When we can see those patterns and we're able to feel the disturbance inside and alchemize it, then the neutrality comes. Inside the neutrality is what's true. And that's where we're able to say, I am a yes to this, or I am a no to this, without apology, without justifying, excusing, explaining. None of that is needed when we're in what's true. It's so clear and it's so clean.
Mm,
It's so, so, so clean. So, yes, very much the feminine invites us to own our truth. And it can take a minute to get there when we've got so many layers that we're sort of working through. And that's where the triggers kind of help us to alchemize what's there. And I want to share one of the bullet points that I promised to talk about today was one unconventional
yeah.
vocabulary reframe that will completely take shame and guilt out of your life. And that is, and this is very unconventional, the words I'm sorry. Take them out of your vocabulary. And
Mm,
here's why. There's two reasons. One, it's a loaded statement. There's so many of us have the bad girl or the bad boy pattern that the moment we say I'm sorry, it's like we're just like, nah, I did something wrong, like forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, right? But then there's another piece to it, which is it actually absolves us of responsibility. When we take the words "I'm sorry" out of our vocabulary, it actually forces a compression that has us really look at what happened and what is our part in it. So if there is something to be owned, listen to this statement. John, I shared one of your programs with a friend without thinking. It was thoughtless, and the impact, there's a financial impact to your business. And it costs me something too, because I'm a course creator, right? And so this just doesn't feel good. I totally own the impact on your organization. And thank you for the opportunity to learn this lesson, because it was a really big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
And and thank you for who you are to me, for being the space for me to learn this lesson. Inside of this, I'm really committed to integrity and honoring people's work in the world. What can I do with you to make that right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say I'm sorry once there,
Mm-hmm.
but I owned it. I showed you what the real impact was, like how I'm committed to, what I'm really committed to, what I'm committed to doing to be different, not better, not try, right? So there's a lot of power in something like that, but no shame, zero shame.
Yeah, there's this rule that works so beautifully whenever we can explain ourselves in 10 words or less and keep it very direct. And that's a
Mhm.
masculine energy also, by the way. But it gets into holding that container through the impacts of the words and how direct it is. And again, and when you have to condense down into a certain amount of words, I'm sorry, shouldn't be wasted, because that doesn't really explain anything
Right.
or direct anything or command anything or
Mhm.
invite anything. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And so I think what's cool about doing, I call this the karmic integration process, when life brings us what we need and then we alchemize it inside and we get the truth nugget out of it. That's the orgasmic freedom I'm talking about. It is tantric truth. When we can really go through this process of sitting with ourselves and seeing what's inside of it, seeing what the core belief system is that's really there, that's had us hostage for lifetimes, it's like, oh my God. It is like, I call it ice cream. It is like, it is spiritual ice cream. And it is so tasty. And it's so good and yummy and delicious that you almost are thankful for the trigger, because you're like, holy shit, I would have never seen this if life didn't bring that to me. Thank you. Thank you, messenger, for bringing this into my space. And from there, there's this gorgeous neutrality that happens that allows us to own what's ours, but also to not own what's not.
Right.
Cleanly. So clean.
So how are you setting boundaries? How are you setting those standards to really honor yourself? And then you also talk about, and that also actually requires other people to get permission from you before they cross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's so much easier than we really make it. You know, it's so for the longest time I was playing these games. I mean, even subtly, right, John? Like I was far down the spiritual path, and I kind of thought, I know all this already. And so for me to really start to see some of the really subtle patterns that were at play, you know, having been on the spiritual path and all, like all the ways where, like, someone would comment on my social media, and instead of actually saying what was true for me, I would say something like, thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your opinion. But there was not, it was noodly. It was like I actually didn't want the conflict.
Mm,
So I was like, you know, thank you. Thank you for you. What I say now is, I actually created well, I'm actually not even on social right now because it's not true for me right now. And I get to honor that. That's one place where I'm like, not true. That's all that matters. So I'm not there. But, you know, when I'm on there, you know, more recently, I actually created a post that was like, if you're in my space and you're responding to anything I share with anything other than a thank you that really resonated for me, you are in one of these patterns,
mm,
and I invite you to sit with it. I see you in your power to do that. And if this space isn't right for you, I honor it.
mm.
I invite you to go where it feels good, where it feels in alignment with your truth. Unfollow me. And further, if you have something more to say on these topics, start your own feed, because there's people who need to hear from you.
Mhm.
Right? So, but like that was so easy to do, but I never even saw that as a possibility before.
Mm.
And then what was happening is I was getting the people who were with me at that point, they were really, really with me. They were solid, right? Like they got it. And they were fun. Like this is they're still, I have my clients who are still with me. They're fun. They get it. They're like, they're not into victim consciousness, right? Because I don't play that game anymore. So it's really just as easy as saying yes or no. It is really that easy. And to say it clearly and neutrally, and to share that, and to know that if someone is confronted by it, this is back to your question of what do we do if like somebody is confronted by your yes or your no, to see them in their power to hold what it's bringing up for them as this is not your responsibility. And that when you can really just like hand that back over to that person energetically, there again, there's like an alchemy that it's theirs. They won't even try to get you with it or hook you with it, because they know you're unavailable for it.
Right.
There's just real quick, I want to share like a couple vocabulary reframes that can be really powerful. I'm not available for that.
Mm.
I'm not open to that. That won't work for me. Those are 3 reframes. They require nothing more than that.
Mhm.
And when you use them, people more often than not respect it, because there's nothing to fight with.
Right.
There's nothing to argue.
Yeah.
It just is.
And when you say it in that way, there's no energetic resentments. A lot of time when we're not that direct with it, there's like this wounding or hurt that comes up, and there's still a relational dynamic that's happening in the field, even though we're not interacting, that's still playing out, that's still telling the story, that's still trying to resolve. And again, the more empathic we get, the more it tries to resolve. So being in the alignment with truth, which is
Mm-hmm.
the most powerful thing that we can do, is also the most compassionate thing that we can do for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're so right, is that people can pick up game. People feel game. Whether they can name it or not, they feel it when we're up to something and it doesn't feel good. It feels unclean. And so that, like you're saying, there's still that, like when we're just not clear, or we use any sort of weird excuse about why we can't do something or whatever, it just is, it's not working the way we think it does.
Oh no, no. And it's becoming more and more physically apparent
Hmm.
than it ever has. Again, this you called it when we spoke last week. And again, it's I know it intimate, this Kali energy that's coming through. Just yeah.
Cut bullshit.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's good, but there's also a preparation that's also good as well, because as you go through the fire and the initiation, and again you're solid in that, things can start kind of cracking into a foundation that is more solid for you, but the other foundations, kind of like we're witnessing in the world events, are crumbling because they were never stable to begin with. So that can look like losing friends, relationships, community shifts in job. And then that brings us into another initiation. It's like, okay, how do we define ourselves without these other things that we build our foundation on? Who am I now?
Mhm.
And what there's fear or loneliness or not knowing how to, what mask, you can't put on the mask anymore, but it's like, again, the accommodation for others and how they related to you can't persist.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're so right. It's good. It's good, and that doesn't mean it's easy, right? It's definitely, this is not the path for the faint of heart. This is the path for people who are really ready to like go deep and really see what's there. And a lot of it is very triggering. we lose all of our identities that we've held on to for so long, that have sort of like numbed us and served us in certain ways. And then we do get left a lot with like what's left. And whatever is left, that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's harder to stay in the bullshit.
Oh,
And feel
totally. It's
that, and to feel
painful.
the incongruencies, and to feel the lying.
Hmm.
Because we
Hmm.
know, I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's just lying,
It is.
manipulation. It's the dark of the dark side of the feminine.
Yeah. Yep. You're so right on with that. I just had like a situation happen a couple days ago where my daughter threw up before school. She was not sick. I'm clear. She had food poisoning because I fed her bad spaghetti the night before because I was too busy to make new spaghetti. So I open up the spaghetti in the fridge, smell it, smells okay. I feed her. She throws up in the morning. And after that, she's fine. And I wanted to send her to school because I'm like, I have things to do, and my husband's been out of town for 5 days, and I really want to get back into my little work, right? Well, I realized that in order to do that, I would be in defiance of an agreement, an unspoken but somewhere stated agreement with the school that says if your child throws up, she can't come to school for 24 hours. So that's what was true. Now, there were a million ways around that. I could have just sent her to school and said, don't tell anyone you threw up. She had no fever, no other symptoms, but I'm not in a practice of lying, even if it's lying by omission or, well, it's unspoken agreement or I didn't know, right? There's all these ways I could have gotten out of it. And I was like, nope, what's true is she threw up. I'm in an agreement with this school that she needs to stay home for 24 hours. John, I was pissed. I was resentful. I was mad at the school. I was mad at my husband. I was mad. I was so angry, right? What was really inside of it for me? I didn't want to take responsibility for giving her the bad spaghetti. And I didn't want to sit with the responsibility of then what came of that, which was keeping my child at home. I got so triggered. What choice did I have but to go right inside?
Yeah.
And inside, I found a huge game, a huge racket that I'd been running around not around blaming others. And I'm like misresponsible, right? That's one of my what do you one of my identities is misresponsible. But I blame others so that I don't have to take responsibility for like my emotions, right? Then I can just like put it all on them. I don't have to take responsibility for the bad spaghetti. So I mean, there's so much more to this story. The point is, was it a convenient truth? No. And when I was in line with my truth and I honored that for my daughter and I honored that for the school, what actually came out of it was so much more important and so much bigger than what would have happened if I was like, just don't tell them you threw up. Because that was a lie.
Yeah. And you're setting her up for that pattern as well.
Correct.
And again, you say it in your agreements, even though you weren't necessarily in agreement with your agreements.
Right.
Which is so interesting, right? It's just this cascade
Right.
of like, oh, but we have to be political in this, and it's a cultural thing, and it's for the collective. But to function in that culture, I have to abide by certain things that aren't necessarily resonant for me.
True, because I have a choice. If it really matters to me that much, that agreement, I can choose to put her in private school.
Right.
Right? So when I choose to put her in public school, I do so with several agreements that are there if I want to change the agreement, then I need to go to the school and have some conversations right? So there's just all these ways of like, when we're in what's true, then whatever else is true that needs to happen can also be true. And it takes us everywhere we need to go.
Yeah.
It's like that perfect pressure that turns the coal into the diamond when we follow the truth. But when we like lie by omission and do all these things, it's just like there's like a needle in the balloon. There's no compression, nothing happens, and we're stuck in the same old bullshit.
We are. And then our physical bodies start to feel it. Our emotions start to gets scattered all over the place because we can't land in an energetic because it's not the stable foundation of the truth.
Correct. Yep.
All it is, it's out of alignment. And when you get into alignment, it's
Mm-hmm. And then everything else lines up. Anything that's not in alignment with that alignment, it just goes away.
Mhm.
My teacher, my spiritual teacher says that the feminine path is the path of loss. The more comfortable we are with loss, the more power we have. And that can sound scary until we remember that whatever we lose is not for us anyway.
Right.
It's, they're actually energy leaks.
Mhm.
Anything that's in our space that's not in line with our truth is a massive energy leak. It's taking our power. We can't be powerful when we give it all our power to all these other things. So it's literally when we like are so shored up that we're like, we can trust that whatever is ours to be in alignment with that, that then we have all the power of creation
Mhm.
inside of us.
Well, when you're so short up, also, it's like the weight of all these other things that has been taken on, you travel lightly.
Mm-hmm.
It's the truth is light.
It is. It is. It is. It doesn't require anything other
Mm,
than itself.
yeah. Oh, Steffi, this is so good. It's so good. And I love that you're holding this space and that you're coming out with it because it's a huge transition that we're all going to go through unless we transition from physical form or
Mm-hmm.
until we transition from physical form. It's going to happen to all of us. We're evolving in such a way is that that truth and being in that is really the only foundation of abundance that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And we start realizing that and being in organic accord
Mm-hmm.
with that truth, then we're going to feel the wobble. We're going to feel the things. And some of it also, as much as we're like you and I, we're very aware when, as much as we can be, and we've done so much work that we can feel when things are off and we're well intended and still something can land off. But we adjust very quickly to it. And so we've learned to adjust more quickly and more quickly and more quickly because we know that it's not worth carrying it, feeling it, and creating the distortion in relationship with others. Again, as we become more empathic, as we become more aware, and everybody is becoming more empathic. I don't care if you say you're not empathic at all, you feel, and there's going to be more feeling coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not think you're triggered, but you are. And so as that continues to show itself, we can either choose to dive into this and really be and face it and embrace it, or we can go and kick it and scream, but it's still going to evolve in us. It's evolving in this world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, look, you're bringing up a great point, which is we don't have to be perfect at the truth game, right? Because that's even in of itself is a pretense.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to do truth perfect. That right there is a game, right? And because we know that doesn't even exist. So that is so light masculine, right? There's a lot of light feminine in that too. So the moment we're perfect at truth, we're in a different dimension. We are not in these human bodies anymore. So, yes, how it's about being clean, and where we are not clean, it's not a shame game. It's okay, what do we do to right that dissonance and bring it back into alignment? There's just, that's all there is to it. So, yeah, I all day long I'm dancing and seeing, can I talk about emojis for a second?
Absolutely.
Oh my God, how much I was managing other people's feelings through emojis. Like,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, like my yes couldn't just be a yes. Because, well, what did that? Are they going to think that I'm mad at them if I just say yes? There's no exclamation point, there's no heart, there's no like whatever to dress it up and make it more consumable. So, those were even little ways that I was sort of betraying my truth, even just in every text message exchange. I have to dress it up in emojis to make it more consumable to help the medicine go down, you know? And it's like, no, yes gets to be yes,
Yeah.
unadulterated. no gets to be no, you know? And so those are just like even some of the really subtle ways that this stuff has presented itself to me lately. And I am on an emoji cleanse now. And so it's sort of like taking I'm sorry out of the vocabulary. It's like there's a compression that happens that's like, how true can I be here? How much can I see the other person and their power to hold the simple truth of this message?
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And again, it's wonderful that you're noticing that for yourself also, because it's inviting intimacy through connection rather than through authentic connection rather than through electronic connection, where
Mm-hmm.
the interpretations can be taken in 100 different ways. Someone was in a disagreement with me, like, well, you're such a good writer, email it to me. It's like, no way am I going to email you any of that. It's like it's going to be you're not going to know what I'm saying. You're not going to pick up on my tone,
Mm-hmm.
on my definition, by the way that you hear me reflecting in certain ways. And if it's something that's truly that important and emotional, that it does require the intimacy of communicating in a way that the energy exchange goes beyond just mere alphabets and electronics and emojis.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
that doesn't land in truth. It lands in other people's past experiences and how they interpret.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, something's occurring, coming through for me to want to share too. You know, the topic of the call today is how to be unfuckwithable. And that even that term can be confronting for people. Like, who does she think she is? Right? Or even the word unapologetic can be confronting for people. So I really want to share what I mean by that, if that's okay to do here now, is like, let's talk about what unfuckwithable really means. It sort of, so we've touched on it a little bit, which means it's immovable, right? It's so solid and shored up in what's true that it requires no defense. So there's actually no defense in it. You know, we think of it as like, oh, I don't care, that makes me unfuckwithable. No, there's no defense, because it's so solid in what's true that it's just what is. And here's what's more though, is that to be truly unfuckwithable is to be able to be with the only thing that really scares us, which is our own emotions. To take the triggers and take them as mana. To eat, I always say, to eat them like spiritual Wheaties for our breakfast, right? And to take them in and alchemize them, to sit with them, to tend to ourselves. That's truly the meaning of unfuckwithable. It does not mean we don't care. And it is definitely not a pattern of defense.
Mhm. But we're not playing into other people's unresolved trauma or unresolved situations, and we're really taking a sovereign stand for the way that we want to do relational dynamics across the board,
Mm-hmm.
uh, with our work, with our children, with our lovers, with our friends. It's just something that you just hold as a being who's showing up in really a lot of self-love and respect and dignity. But through that comes the love, respect, and dignity for others as well.
Exactly. So there's actually not a hardness there at all.
Mm.
There's a lot of receptivity. There's a lot of softness. There's not a compliance. We don't comply here. We're not like we're not betraying, abandoning ourselves, not consenting, like saying no where we mean yes and yes where we mean no. We're not doing any of those things. We're clear, we're solid, and from that place, because there's no defense required, we're also very open.
Mm. It's been, I'm again, being part of this community, part of the membership that we have, there's a lot of people who've held this, again, this channel of truth within them, especially in family dynamics and holding it with family, and how family wants to come in and distort and create shame and guilt and project it towards you so that you'll bend to the family dynamic will.
Mhm.
It's like, what do you say to people who are just like in that? It's like, this is my truth, and it can be very painful and hurtful and
Yeah.
ostracizing.
Well, so I can speak from personal experience there. And I can share that for me, what was really helpful was to say that, there's some dynamics that have become clear to me in this relationship pattern. And I'm not fully clear on how I'm participating in the dynamic. I'm committed to X, Y, and Z in this relationship: closeness, intimacy, vulnerability, us being able to be who we are, authenticity. And I need to take a step back and sit with this for a while until I can get clear. I think we forget the power of the pause, the power of being able to say, I don't know, I'm not clear yet. And that gets to be true too. And so in these relationship dynamics where people, you, audience, me, are noticing that something is not clean and something is not clear, and we're not clear yet what the thing is or how we want to be inside of that, we have full permission to take a step back and say, I need to sit with this a while. I don't know. I'm not clear yet. I'm committed to this. I will come back. I will reach out when I'm clear.
Mhm. But even sometimes with the clarity that comes up, and I think that's a fantastic step back and pause to get that clarity. Even when the clarity comes up, again, with family members, brothers, sisters, parents, those dynamics, because they're so entrenched, there could be a lot of, when you're sharing truths, gaslighting that's coming back, a reframing of your truth into something that's trying to put you like back in your place or bring them back into a position of some type of power that they held because of the relationship dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, once we do that karmic integration process on ourselves, where we take the space we need to get really clear, to get that, like, the truth feels real weighty when she comes through. It's like, oh, that's what's true. It's a freedom and a weight at this. It's like clunk, right? It's like, bam, I got it. That's what's true. And it's unfuck withable. So that, when you share what's true, if someone's then trying to come in and gaslight or whatever, there's truly no defense required. It is so, it's so ringy dingy in what's there. And I think what the invitation is from the feminine would be, where can you be comfortable with what needs to be lost here? What are you willing to lose in the relationship in the name of what's true?
Mhm.
Like, are you willing to lose a relationship completely because it's built on bullshit, trusting that it will be rebuilt in truth if it's meant to be?
Right.
And
And
that
that's and
sounds,
that's the door to hold open. It's not complete letting go, trusting that if it's meant to be, that it will evolve with the truth. And the truth
exactly.
will keep revealing itself. And we can have a version of the truth one day, and we can have another version of it the next day.
Exactly. Absolutely. Our truth gets to update as many times as is needed. I'm a no today. I may be a yes a month from now. I don't know that right now, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I reserve the right to update my truth as my truth updates.
Yeah. And,
Exactly.
and if you want to meet me in that, my door's open in that truth, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned this, because it is true that there's been some familiar relationships that I've lost through this process. And I honor the loss, because they were such games anyway, right? That doesn't mean I don't love the people. I just didn't love the pattern. And I was as much a part of the pattern as they were. I trust that if these are really meant to be relationships, that's an overused term, but that they'll resurrect. And when I'm clear, I'm ready to go back and have those conversations. In the meantime, I'm willing to lose them. And what's been really like the best is those family relationships and the friendships where they're meeting me in my
Right.
truth. And like, I am having the level of friendships and relationships and partnership in my life like I've never had before, because like the moment a truth opens for me, a truth opens for them, it opens for me, it opens for them. We're like living in different dimensions
Mhm.
in these relationships because they're meeting me. They're
Right.
rising. They're taking the compression on with me, and we're like, and it's like orgasmic.
Hmm. Yeah, it's when those elements meet and they complement each other and you rise together. It's so wonderful. Steffi, I want to get into your special offer in a second. And this is, y'all, this is a fantastic special offer. And the price that Stephanie's bringing it in at is, we originally started at what, 199 or 144, or it's I forget what it was.
Yes.
It was
And
oh, go ahead, tell
well, I
us.
just want to name it's 1111. I've been seeing all the 11s. I was like, it couldn't, the feminine could not have been clearer that this was the price point was 111. And I was like, okay, you got it, sister. So that's where we ended up.
Well, let's go into the special offer, y'all. And we are going to take live calls. So if you have your hand raised, I'm going to start promoting you guys to panelists. Type your questions into the chat box and let's have fun with this, with the Q&A. And I'm really excited about the experience you guys are going to have with Steffi working through this program. So the link to get to the special offer page is in the chat box. Or you can also type into your web browser beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Steffie, Steffie 26. It'll take you to that same page. And this is such a great offer. And it's the way that you put it together is just so resonant for me that I have to share the screen while you're going over it with us. So here we go. Work with Steffi. $111 buy now. And talk to us about the offer, Steffi.
Okay, so this offer is called Roar. And this is all about dismantling, untangling, and unwinding all the layers that have been suffocating you, all the games, all the patterns, all the ways that then they're very subconscious, right? To be able to really see them and then to land inside your body where the truth lives. And then from there, from that ringy dingy truth to then rise and roar into the world. And it really is an energetic feeling of like coming up from the womb, the bowels, like the truth, the unadulterated truth. And that's what this program is all about. So if you'll scroll down with me just a little bit, John, the program is designed such that you never have to abandon, forsake, or betray yourself again. And I want to share just a little bit about the birth of this program. John invited me into this season when I was still running other programs that are quite frankly no longer true. And I had to be willing to lose them. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about with John. And it's perfect. And I know it's perfect. And Roar was what demanded to be born in that space. So she's like, she was ready to come through, like whether we were ready or not. Yes. So Roar is the invitation when your desire is to be free.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, what to expect?
Yes. So, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you that it is your masculine mind that wants to know what to expect, but understanding how the nervous system works, and that we need a little bit of sort of, just to like let that mind wrap its mind around something in order to be able to relax into the process, because this is actually a very fluid process. The feminine is very fluid. Here's the general what to expect. I will walk you through 3 gates. The first gate is rewilding. This is all about your descent down the melting walls. All the ways you've been white knuckling grip onto the walls are going to start to melt, and you're going to be able to start to see so many of your patterns that you haven't seen before. Your the games you're playing, the identities that you've been holding, and really start to alchemize and learn how to use life herself as your medicine, and to take that spiritual mana for the soul, so that then you can land. And this is the down, right? The feminine is the down. It's the downslide into the, just like that, like taking the lantern down into the bowels of the pyramids, down the spiral staircase, and like, hark, who goes there? What's in this closet? What's in this closet? Come out wherever you are. So that's the invitation here. And so then when you've peeled off enough of the layers, that's where you land with a boom inside your body and you take up some space. You're able to feel what's true. And then from there, the third gate is the renaissance. It's the rebirth. It's the expression out into the world of, from that place, that immovable place of no bullshit, no games, just your pure, piercing, authentic, soft yet strong center roar, that reverberation. So scroll on down.
Roll on down. Let's keep going.
So without reading all of this, but I do think it's important when, I mean, there's teaching in this alone, whether you join the program or not. You will finish this program as a living embodiment of the holy woman vow of inner devotion. And so this talks about what it really means to be unapologetic, unbound, and unfuckwithable, right? And to actually be a living embodiment of these energies in the world, and to then be the frequency of truth in the awakening world.
I really love that you're talking about this inner devotion and what's coming through. And on a very personal note, I went through a deep process where someone else was witnessing these energies that were flowing through me. And I had to pause her as we were sharing, as we were having this exchange, and she was holding this space for me. And I said, you need to do me a favor. I said, I need you to ask me a question. Are you ready to devote yourself to you? Are you ready to devote yourself to you? Are you ready to marry yourself? Basically, it's what it was.
Chills.
And I needed someone else to witness that, where I could say it physically in the devotion, so it could be anchored in through the reverberation of the voice into my physical body through the commitment. And it's strong energy that's coming up now. It's that, again, the sacredness. Mm-hmm. Because if we can't be in devotion to ourselves, then we can't really be in devotion to anybody else.
So true. And this program really teaches that. And it teaches that our desire is holy. You know, we minimize our desire, but desire is actually core creational energy. And we are allowed, not even allowed, it's like our birthright to receive the fulfillment of those desires and to ask for them.
Right.
Be fulfilled. And that, to me, there's a lot around devotion to our desire. And instead of like always giving pleasure, right? That's what we spend, for many of us, so much of our life, giving pleasure, giving pleasure. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? How can I contort myself for you? And to just take it, suck it, eat it, like, you know, our own pleasure. And that to me is a lot about that inner devotion piece as well, to be well fed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to name too, John, because like this is so resonant for you. And I want everyone to know, I think this is clear. When I talk about the feminine and the masculine, I'm speaking of energy, not gender. So this is truly for anybody, regardless of gender, that is looking to find the dark feminine in themselves. You know, the dark feminine being everything we've talked about in this call, that truthy unfuckwithableness, right? That's who this is for. So if you are if you identify as any gender other than female, you're welcome here. And the invitation is that I will invite you to really look at your feminine archetypes and your feminine past lives in a lot of ways, because we all share those. Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful. So again, there's the details of what the dates are. And of course, everything's going to be recorded.
Yep.
So you guys will have the recordings as well if you miss something. And I love what's included though, again, and the shamanic Olympia ceremonies as well. So you're really going into really ceremony.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a ceremony. Again, I think it's the Heros Gamos within ourselves. Mm-hmm. This is so beautiful. First, I love your sales page. This is so amazing. Again, dismantling games. You're going to walk through Um, and as you sign up, this transmission starts. You're saying yes to you, and in that space of owning that power and that innocence simultaneously.
Yeah.
Amazing. Y'all, this is $111. It's a two payment option. These are live calls, right, Steffi?
Yep.
They're Zoom calls, I'm assuming, or video
Yep.
calls?
Zoom calls. Hmm.
All right.
Yes, there's 4 Zoom calls. This is the only space I'm offering this price point for this program. I mean, so yes,
Yeah,
because
this
yeah,
is
this is what was true today.
wow.
So yeah,
It's much more expensive on Steffi's website.
yeah,
And the value is 1000% there. So I hope you guys go deeper with Steffi and really awaken this and get into this relational dynamic with the dark feminine inside of you. Again, the link is in the chat box. Click on the link to get to the special offer page. You can't click on your screen because that's my screen you're seeing. It won't take you anywhere. Or again, you can go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Steffi26 and it'll take you to that same page. And Steffi, with that, let's go ahead and open up where that I can stop sharing my screen now.
okay.
And let's start taking some callers and some questions on the line. So let's promote you guys to panelists, and let's see what questions were coming up in the chat. Netu, Netu, you raised your hand also. I think I want to take your question live. So Netu, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Let's get you to unmute.
Hi, John. Hi, Steffi. Thank you so much. So wonderful to be here. I actually typed my question, and I'm just trying to remember the exact words. I just wanted to know, do you have my question there, John?
I do. I'm happy to read it.
Yeah, please. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. How does one embody the space of speaking and communicating clearly from clarity and ease from your inner power, soul, and heart space?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a lot of dismantling work that gets to happen around that. Because if we don't see sort of the unconscious patterns that are underneath the ways that even like the point part of us that says, I have to be able to speak my truth, right? Can you hear the damsel in there? Can you hear like the pattern that's like, oh, I don't know how to speak my truth. Like I'm not allowed to speak my truth. When you unpeel the layers and you see the patterns and the identities at play, which is the work that we do inside of Roar, and what happens after you unpeel those patterns is what you're left with is true, and the truth requires no energy of I have to speak my truth here. It's not like that. It's just like this is just what it is. It flows out. It's easy. It's effortless. It's non-compliant. It's no bullshit. It's no games. It's easy. And I mean, like there's an ease to it. There's an easiness. We're just easy with people. It's soft. There's not this like I have to defend myself kind of energy to it. Does that make sense? It's through the dismantling, seeing the games, and then feeling the truth, and then from there, it's a natural expression.
And it's practice also. It's like practice is like being brave, and it's like this feels uncomfortable speaking my truth, but it's a muscle we have to flex. Again, if we're used to accommodating, if we're used to codependency, if we're used to acquiescing, if we're used to manipulating, if we're used to getting our way or giving others their way for the sake of what we think is diplomacy, then getting into the practice of speaking truth can seem like it's like you're carrying a boulder uphill, rolling a boulder uphill in front of you. But the second that you start allowing it to express, it becomes easier.
Mm-hmm. And there's certain ways too, like I found the use of the phrase "that is not my joy" to be one of the most wonderful things I've ever discovered. Someone will invite me to a pumpkin patch. with my daughter. And I'm like, oh, that is not my joy. Like, no, you know, instead of like, oh, I have this other thing I have to do, or it's like, oh man, that is so not my joy. No, thank you, but thank you, but no, thank you. Like, you know, so that's been one that's been real light and easy for people to assimilate, and they love it, and they're like, huh, what's my joy? What's not my joy? Like, it gives them permission to be in that space too. And I think phrases like that won't work for me, or I'm not available for that, or I'm not interested in that. You know, it's actually so much easier. But like you say, John, there's a practice, and there's also a grace, because I practice a lot and I don't always get it right.
Yeah.
Right. And then then life gives me her medicine. Okay, where was I? Where was I out of alignment? What does it take to get back into alignment? And then really looking clearly at what the truth is there. And is there anything that needs to be spoken? Or is it more of an agreement with myself for next time? And it's a practice for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I love the awareness that of what we're over explaining ourselves, of why we don't want to, and why this not, it's why it doesn't feel right, and why I don't take it this way. And this is what I really mean. And I hope when we're in that, again, it's such a beautiful barometer where, again, we're trying to accommodate, we're trying to empathically manage other people's emotions so that we can feel better.
Mm-hmm.
We think we're managing other people's emotions so they'd feel comfortable, but actually it's very selfish if you really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think John, what you just distilled for me is, I think me too, this is a great practice, is if anything beyond a yes or a no is required, why? What's there? Look at it. See what information am I trying to justify, explain, minimize, delete, adulterate, make myself more consumable, you know, and that can just be right there, just such a great practice, like a yoga practice, like just coming back to your mat over and over, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Nandu, great question.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's so
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Thank you so much. I'm
Great.
looking forward to your call, Steffi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for staying up late for us. I know how late it is over there.
Yeah, it's 2 a.m. here.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth it. I wasn't going to miss this. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very night owl. Owl is very dark feminine energy.
There you go.
You've
All right,
already
let's go to our next caller. Let's go to Zoom user. I forget your name. You were on last week. Yes, you. If you can unmute yourself, that'd be wonderful.
Hello. Is the earpiece working tonight?
They're working, yes.
Okay. Hi, Steffi. Hi, John.
Hi.
It's such a breath. It's such a breath of fresh air to see somebody who's unapologetic and doesn't need to fill those silences within a conversation. You know, you say what you want to say, and if there's no more to say, then you go, well, see you later. I mean, I did a study exchange when I was at university to near Allentown, Pennsylvania, when I was about 20. And in Britain, we have this sort of dance of saying, oh, thank you. And then somebody says, don't mention it, or you're okay. And there's this sort of formal dance that you have to go through to say thank you to somebody. But in America, I used to say thank you, and they go, yes. And I used to feel really disenfranchised that they hadn't done their part of the dance. And it was quite healthy, quite fresh. And saying goodbye on the telephone is another thing where it's almost like, no, you hang up, that kind of syndrome. And I felt much refreshed, more refreshed when Americans went, okay, bye, and then you heard the click. It's just off you go. But do you find that people weirdly take it as a kind of a challenge or a target to try and trip you up because you're so self-assured and standing in your power? And they find it, well, I'll snag her somehow. I'll chip a bit off her sometime.
No, I'm not available for that. Truly, my energy my field doesn't hold the bullshit pattern. It's amazing how, since I've really started getting so clear about what I'm available for and what I'm not, what I'm open to and what I'm not, it's like it's natural Teflon. Nothing can hook me. and I see the games immediately, I'm like, I'm out.
But it
And
attracts all kinds of jealousy though, doesn't it?
that's theirs to hold. If
Right.
if that it, I don't even know, maybe that's what it brings up in them. I'm not sure what's getting brought up. I see them in their power to hold what it brings up for them, and that it's their medicine, and that they can work through whatever needs to get worked.
You don't take responsibility for it, Steffi.
Mm-mm.
And
Do you remember the first time you did it and sort of like felt like you got away with it? I mean, it's not a natural stance, is it? We do have to start off being the light, and then we discover the dark and go, oh, that kind of. It's a bit like overtaking a car, and then the police car comes and you think, oh, got away with it, and then it becomes a habit.
It is weird. I mean, I'll tell you, like my emoji cleanse, I it feels weird sometimes. I'm like, I just want to use that emoji because I don't want to have to figure out how to express this, right? So it is weird. Like it definitely, like John has said, it takes practice. It feels different because it's a different practice, and it is so exhilarating and so powerful. And there's no game. Is like you've basically taken the Monopoly board and you've thrown it up and you've said, I'm done playing. Yeah, you can have the game.
I
I'm
thought of
out.
that earlier on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Stop playing, I'm
and it's
out.
easy. It's not a fuck you, right? That's important. It's not from a place of collapse or I can't handle this or I can't handle who you are to me. It's just it's from an expanded nervous system of no. No.
And you don't have to be abrasive or abrupt or anything like that, or ill-mannered or anything like that. It's just know that that's all I'm going to deliver, and that's all you're getting.
Yeah, exactly. That is not my joy. I mean, that one is like the best. People get it immediately. I don't, do you see what I mean? It's not, there's not anything rude inside of it. It's like, people get it and they're like, oh my God, that's so refreshing. It's not my joy either. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You know? And we get to be a space for other people. Truth, when you are not your own truth, you know, it's almost like, and for the guys, you won't get this, but it's almost like taking your bra off, right? At the end of the day, you're like, oh, I feel so free. And there is this energy gets released that is truly orgasmic. It's tantric. It's Kundalini type energy. It is Kundalini energy. It's like, well, that energy, anyone who's in your field, it will, if they're open, it will unknot something for them. And then when they unknot, it will unknot something more for you. And you can be in this beautiful dance of uncording, right? No strings attached because the knots are getting untied. And it's like, whoa, this is fun. You know, instead of being so tied to each other and like, oh, I need you to be like this so I can be okay, so you can be okay, so I can be okay. And it just really, it's a very expansive way to be, and it gives other people permission to also be in their truth, which is like the best, right?
Well, this takes me, if again, if everything's happening that's happening to me is happening for me, then I also have to believe that if anything that's happening to them is happening for them as well.
Yeah.
And it just is
When
an experience.
When my father used to pull my strings a little bit too much like a marionette, I used to go snip, 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 sort of free floating, you know, and just standing up by myself and all the strings have gone. And it's such a liberating thing. And it's lovely. It's somebody else enjoying it, because I just put it down to being Sagittarius and being a bit blunt, but it's just a healthy way forward, I think.
Yeah, it's
So all power to
fascinating.
you.
Thank you for calling in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Go to the next caller. And Steffi, for me, a barometer for me is I can feel when I'm speaking my truth in love, even if I have a very clear defined standard that I'm holding. And I know I'm speaking in love, not just for myself, but just for the energetics of the circumstances that are there. And if we know that that's our foundation, then the clarity of that truth will find its way in if the relational dynamic is open for it. In other words, if the other person's open. And if they're not, then what relationship was there really? Codependency, manipulation, like all these other things that you probably don't want to participate in anymore anyway, unless you do, which is fun as well, right?
You have that choice.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's important to name here too that, at the core of all of this is knowing what's true, which can be half the thing, right? That's the practice also. What does truth feel like in our bodies? And what I'll say here, and I think is important, and anyone can start practicing this right now, is if it's untrue, you will feel some sense of constriction. Something will feel off. Constriction, or tightness, or just something just won't feel right. And then if it's true, it will feel open. Right? So feel where you feel closed and you feel open. If anything is happening and you're feeling closed, it's not true. So that can be a really good barometer for speaking one's truth. Back to Nitu's question is, well, first let's figure out what's true. Do I feel open or do I feel closed? And it all is a felt sense in the body. You can literally get out of your mind and feel it.
Yeah, that's great tools and great awarenesses to bring up. Thank you for that. And thank you for the conversation. It's wonderful. Hey, Linda, let's go to you now. Let's get you to unmute.
Me?
Yes, you, Linda.
Oh, okay. I'm listening to this whole conversation. It's really good because I have so many friends who put on like the show, so to speak. And I've been trying to teach them over and over and over again to detach and to see the truth for what it is. And the more that they don't detach, the more resistance is set up within their fields. And you just see it, and the truth becomes more and more prominent with every interaction you have with them. So I resonate totally with what Steffie's saying. It's really cool.
Did you have a question?
No, I guess not. I guess I just was trying to affirm how wonderful this conversation is and how great it is to be part of this process. So I thank you.
Thanks.
Unless Steffie has something to say.
Are you open for reflection?
Sure.
I would ask, and I don't know what's true, but there's something inside me that wants to ask, is there any part of you in these dynamics with your friends where you're wanting to rescue them from their own truth medicine?
Nope. No, I have totally stopped that. I've had several friends. I had a really fascinating encounter many, many years ago with my own daughter. And she was in a real knit. She was very upset. And she stormed out of the house, and the words used were not very conducive to being shared here. But I had a girlfriend there who had never been in my house before. And she looked at me and she goes, "How did you handle that?" I said, "Well, it wasn't my problem, it was hers." So I just let it go because I wasn't going to wrap myself around her emotions to me at that time because it wasn't me. It wasn't for me. And it felt so good to release it. I mean, you're right. You always feel it in your stomach or your heart or some other place. And the pressure is so great that you have to release it. You just have to, in whatever shape you can. And the more you release it, the more you feel that, like you said, to me, when you said you unwind it for yourself, you unwind it for other people, it's kind of like a weaving of it. You kind of weave it open and you allow other people to recognize that they've been too detached to their own problems and wrap themselves around the other people's problems. And my girlfriends have started to unwind as well. So it's kind of been fascinating.
So you are the thread that is the holding that container. And I think what I heard you say is you're really allowing other people to have their own experience, and that's power. And I think you bring up a great point, which is not something you're doing, is something that for everybody to be aware of. Is it's very easy to project on other people what's like our own stuff, right? And so that's another place where we can find a pattern. Like when I say that so-and-so is doing this, right? Is there actually something in me that I'm doing? right? Is there a way that I'm actually playing into this pattern? Or is it a neutral observation, which is where you've arrived, which is, well, this is delightful to watch this whole thing just happen and not be any part of it. And just to be
Yes.
able to see it with a big smile of hysteria. I'm like, well, this is just the way the game crumbles, right? So
It's like
and to
watching a
be,
story. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah,
I didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah. No, you didn't. And thank you for receiving this so openly.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, John.
Thanks for
Thanks,
calling.
Steffi.
Okay, I've got a question that came in from an anonymous attendee. I love anonymous. I feel embarrassed to be so honest, but with capitals, I found it increasingly harder to tolerate not speaking what is true for me, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. The unfortunate thing is, depending on my interactions and who I'm talking to, people either don't take me seriously or they don't listen, and I then speak far more forcefully in anger and frustration. This happens often with my family. What does this say about me that I'm overlooking?
So good. I think just, yeah, naming the pattern right there is so perfect. And there's an aspect of, okay, so you're speaking what's true for you, but you're still looking for something from the other, right? So they're not giving you what you need. So you're confronted by that. And so then there's an overcompensation that's happening to drive the point home. What if you sat with that part of you that's not feeling heard? That's the invitation. That's the dark feminine invitation is, okay, family, thank you for being the messenger. It's time for me to go get my message. And to really, and there's a whole process around this, but briefly, drop the story, drop the players. By the way, you hired them to play that game for you. And we do this, we hire all the people in our lives to be the players that trigger us, because that's how badass we are. That's the game we signed up for when we came to Earth. And we're like, show me where I'm wounded so that I can work on it and tend to myself. So good job. You did your job very well, Anonymous. And now it's really about firing the players that the roles you've hired them for, so that you can go in the body, feel where you're feeling constricted, and start to really breathe some life into those places and see what messages are in there for you. Of course, there's a much deeper process here, but the work is within. Right. There's a part of you that's not feeling heard, and she gets to speak.
Not heard and not seen. Yeah.
Yep. And then you get to tell her what she needs to hear, and how you get to tell her she's seen. So that then she doesn't need that from the family members, because she's already got it.
Well, the flip side of that is you start inviting in relational dynamics to do hear and see you, where your voice is spoken through the clarity and it's received in that way. And just because somebody else has a filter on that isn't picking up on, for whatever reason, on how you're showing up, it doesn't define you. And again, in those relational dynamics, we're defined in certain roles, and we try to speak up according to the dynamic, and it's just, we're done playing those games. It just doesn't serve. Sarah B writes, when I'm triggered, I can often thank quietly the person or situation that triggered me. When I'm slower to recognize that I'm triggered, how can I clean it up within me and with the trigger?
Can you,
Yeah, I'm a little confused about that question. When I'm triggered, I can often thank the person in the situation that triggered me.
Yeah.
When I'm slower to recognize that I'm triggered. In other words, and when I would restate, when I'm in reaction and don't realize that I'm in reaction, how can I come back and clean that up within me? So how do we reflect upon it so it becomes more obvious, perhaps?
It's all about the body. You'll know immediately. See, we get so heady about this stuff. We're so in our minds, and we get so lost in the illusion of the story. But the body will tell you the moment something is up and it feels like constriction. It may, again, I think it was Linda mentioned, you might feel it in your heart, your stomach, your throat, your shoulders. It might feel like tightness, heat, pressure, nausea. But whatever it is, that's your cue. There's an active energy pattern that's stuck that wants me to spew. And it wants me to spill, and it wants me, because I haven't been practiced at meeting this energy pattern and holding myself, I can barely hold it. And so I want to like, right out here, and then I got to go clean it up. So there's just an immediate invitation from the body. The body is the dark feminine, and she's going, come here, look at me. So I would say use your body like a pendulum. It will tell you immediately.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating also in this question, because it's also, why the need to clean it up so quickly? Why can't you just own that you had a response, you had anger, you had sadness, you had a sensual response to something? It's like there's truth in that. And it doesn't always have to be cleaned up, but we've become so used to being our own, couch psychologist and trying to interpret and not allowing the truth to really flow through. It's like, what if you don't have to judge that you got angry?
Totally.
Right.
And I think in relationship too, there's a way to say right away, I'm feeling sadness inside my body. I'm not clear yet what it is. I'm going to sit with it. I will come back when I'm clearer. So you can even say, or like, I'm feeling anger. Like I need to go tend to this instead of the spilling. So there's a way to deal with that right out of the gate too, that's honest, but without being hurtful.
And by being honest in that way, by even just speaking into what's present, you really dissolve the weight of guilt and shame that comes up after a response that we feel that we have to go back and clean up.
Totally.
Yeah. And so it's so important. Steffie, I'm so excited about this program.
Thank you.
Roar. This is amazing. Y'all, this is deep work. And it's powerful work, but it's not hard. It really isn't. And once you get past the first, I spoke that, and you've already done it, but it's a practice. It's like, and Steffie is just, she's on fire. If like anybody's going to lead y'all through this at this time, it's sign me up for Steffie. Because she's embodying it, and she's fresh from this new level of perspective. Not that you haven't embodied it before, but there's another octave that's coming online, and it's bigger than just our physical bodies. It's bigger than our third bodies. It's we're embodying a consciousness that we haven't had as much access to before as we presently do.
Yeah, thank you so much for that reflection. And what I want to say about that is that our mess becomes our message, right? I have to teach what's alive for me, or it's dead. It's not true. And so I am so in this process right now. And I'm really understanding the energetics, like the patterns of just like energetics in general of like, okay, it's sort of like, I've got my lantern. I'm not the invitation here though. The feminine is the invitation. If this work is for you, it's not me inviting you, it's the feminine inviting you, and she's beckoning you down the path. Okay. And if this work is for you, it will feel resonant for you on some level that feels familiar, as though you've trained in these mystery schools before. It's just there, you will know. Okay. You will know your yes. And the mind might want to tell you a million reasons why. And the process of just signing up, if you are a yes, is the work. That is the work. That's being in relation to the desire, right? If you're a no and it's a clean no, more power to you, right? I honor the yes and I honor the no. And I think what's really important to name here is that you get to be in your desire, and that whatever that is for you, that is the invitation into the feminine.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
It's organic. Again, it's natural, and you just
know. Yep.
Yeah, so
and the mind might want to tell you a million reasons. And so for a minute you don't know, but then when you just drop all the noise, you're like, no, I know. I totally know. And John, it feels true for me to name that I am also a student, right? And my truth is that my teachers need to also be students. And so a lot of this work has been alchemized through me, through my own teacher, Perry Chase. And I want to name her here and recognize her. And, you know, I trust that if whatever, you know, is meant to happen from that is true. And it feels very important to name her as a big catalyst in my process here. And that what I'm doing with this work inside of my program Roar is literally like the feminine is beckoning you down the path. I have the lantern. I'm going to give you a lantern and I'm going to take your arm and I'm going to walk you down the path and we're going to go together, right? And I'm going to grab you and I'm going to show you the way. But life herself is the teacher. I'm your guide.
Beautiful. April, do me a favor, put the link in the chat box again. So that people can easily access. And in case you're trying to scroll through, it should pop. There it is. So again, click on the special offer link. It's $111. The sessions start December 3rd. So you're taking people through these gateways, these portals also that are coming through so strong. So really we're on 11/11. So you're going to take them through a couple of eclipses. Yep. You're going to take them into 12/12 and you're going to take them through 12/24.
You got it.
Wow, this is powerful.
Yeah. And the winter is the dark feminine, by the way, also. So there's no better time than right now. And you know, this program, she demanded to be born. This is the feminine's program. This is not mine. And I am honored to be your guide through it and to be the container holder. And I can't wait for you to see what's there for you inside of it, because it's
yeah, well, it really stirs something in me. It said that she demanded to be born because, as you spoke earlier, that your old programs didn't resonate and you didn't know what was coming through. And you can't rush the feminine. The feminine has to go through her gestation period. Mm-hmm. And when she's ready, and she will awaken when it's time.
Exactly. And even the birth of the program is such a testament to how much you can trust the feminine, right? All my old programs were no longer true. The freedom of letting them go and being open to that loss was amazing. When I was like, oh my God, I built all of that and I can just let Callie take that. Yeah. I was like, and now what am I going to do? And here it was completely like the space needed to be created. And here she is. Here she is. And I'm also unattached to what needs to come of that, right? It's like, whatever, this is what's true, and whatever comes of what's true is perfect. And the level of safety and trust that's inside of that is actually like something I've been searching my whole life for.
Amazing.
Here it is. Yeah.
It's time for everybody to experience that safety and trust within yourself. And in that, it just blossoms everywhere else. You just hold it. It's part of your divine light. And it is
Unf kwithable.
Unf kwithable. I'll get it eventually.
I love it. Perfect. It's messy, just like the feminine. It's perfect.
Messy birth I'm giving over here.
Yes.
Again, y'all take advantage. Steffi, this has been an amazing call. Just so it's so grounded and so expansive at the same time. And yeah, God, again, that child, that energy that is coming on the other side of this, it's what you get to nurture and to grow and stand for. So beautiful. You're awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and offering this in the way that you have.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah. And everybody on the call, thank you so much for being on the call, for being in this space with us and witnessing and participating. And again, I hope you guys see Steffi on the other side of the special offer. And I look forward to seeing you on the next call. Y'all have a great evening.
Take care. Be well. See you soon.